Peace is the natural state of your soul. It is the quiet confidence that everything is aligned with your purpose, the calm assurance that the universe is working in your favor. When you are in harmony with life, you feel a deep inner serenity that is unshakable, no matter what chaos may exist around you. But when God is trying to show you that someone in your life is toxic, that peace begins to erode. You may not notice it at first because life is busy and distractions are everywhere. Yet slowly, subtly, and persistently, you start to feel a heaviness that wasn't there before. You wake up with tension in your chest, you go to sleep with thoughts that won't stop spinning, and even ordinary interactions leave you feeling exhausted. This disturbance is not random, and it is not a coincidence. It is your spirit communicating with you, sending signals that something is misaligned, signaling that this person is not meant to be a permanent presence in your life. Peace is the voice of God within you, and when it is disturbed repeatedly, it is an unmistakable message that you are in a situation that is unhealthy for your soul. You see, peace is not just the absence of conflict. It is the presence of clarity, the presence of alignment, the presence of joy. When someone consistently disrupts that equilibrium, it is a sign that their energy is incompatible with yours. It is a sign that their influence is not conducive to your growth. You may try to rationalize it, telling yourself that their behavior is just part of who they are, that this is normal in relationships, that love requires patience and compromise. But the inner voice of peace does not lie. It keeps nudging, whispering, pressing, insisting that something is wrong, that something needs to change. The key difference between those who recognize this and those who ignore it is awareness. The spiritually aware person listens to the signals of peace being disturbed. They pay attention to the subtle unease, the repeated irritations, the cumulative weight of negativity that seems to follow them around like a shadow. And slowly they begin to understand that this is not about minor disagreements or trivial annoyances. This is about your spirit being unsettled, your energy being drained, your life being siphoned by someone who does not have your best interests at heart. It is important to understand that God never intends for you to live in a state of constant unrest. The Creator designed you to thrive, to experience life with joy, to feel secure in your purpose, and to move forward with confidence. When peace is disturbed consistently, it is a divine red flag. It is a way for God to alert you to the fact that something in your environment is keeping you from stepping into the fullness of who you are. Many people ignore these signs because they fear conflict, because they are attached to the comfort of familiarity, because they are afraid to face the truth that someone they care about is actually harming them. But ignoring the disturbance of peace does not remove it, it intensifies it. It manifests in stress, in anxiety, in health issues, in a growing sense of dissatisfaction, and in the slow erosion of your joy. The longer you remain in proximity to a toxic person who disrupts your peace, the more your spirit becomes accustomed to discomfort, and the more difficult it becomes to recognize the state of grace and clarity you were once meant to inhabit. When you feel your peace disturbed, it is critical to pay attention to the signs that arise both internally and externally. Internally, you may notice persistent worry, irritability, or a sense of heaviness whenever you are around this person. Your thoughts may constantly circle around interactions that leave you feeling diminished, dismissed, or drained. Externally, you may notice patterns in the person's behavior, manipulation, criticism, negativity, or emotional unpredictability that consistently pull you out of alignment. What makes this particularly significant is the repetition. One isolated incident may not be enough to signal divine guidance. But when this disturbance occurs repeatedly, it becomes unmistakable. It is the universe speaking through the rhythm of your experiences, saying that your well-being is being compromised and it is time to take action. Walking away from someone who disturbs your peace is not a rejection of them as a human being. It is a commitment to yourself and your spiritual health. God allows these disturbances so that you will recognize the boundaries necessary for your growth, so that you will develop discernment, and so that you will not settle for relationships that diminish your light. Peace is not negotiable. It is the core of your being, the essence of your energy, the foundation upon which your life is built. When it is disturbed continuously, it is not a minor inconvenience. It is a divine signal to evaluate, to discern, and to act. The journey toward maintaining your peace requires courage, self-awareness, and trust in God's wisdom. It requires understanding that your spirit is sacred, that your energy matters, and that no one has the right to repeatedly disturb what God has placed within you. Growth is the natural rhythm of life. It is the process through which your spirit evolves, your mind expands, and your purpose comes into clearer focus. Every human being is designed to move forward, to step into greater levels of understanding, to achieve higher states of consciousness, and to become a better version of themselves each day. But sometimes, without realizing it, you find yourself stagnating, feeling stuck in a place that is uncomfortable and unfulfilling. You notice that your dreams are not progressing, your goals feel heavier than they should, and the spark that once motivated you to pursue your passions begins to fade. This is not an accident, and it is not simply a coincidence. Often, when growth comes to a halt, it is a divine signal that something or someone in your life is inhibiting your evolution. God never intended for you to remain small. He never designed your spirit to be limited or restrained by circumstances or by people who do not serve your highest good. When your growth has stopped, it is often because someone in your life is holding you back, either intentionally or unknowingly, and God allows you to feel the weight of stagnation so that you will recognize it and make the changes necessary to thrive. When a relationship becomes a barrier to your growth, it manifests in subtle but persistent ways. You may notice that your motivation dwindles whenever you interact with a certain person. Conversations that once inspired you now leave you feeling drained. The person may criticize your ambitions, belittle your ideas, or unconsciously project their own limitations onto you. Over time, these small interactions accumulate into a force that restrains your progress. You begin to question yourself, doubt your capabilities, and wonder if you are aiming too high. What God is showing you in this scenario is that growth requires alignment with people who uplift, inspire, and encourage you, not those who weigh you down with negativity or doubt. The universe, through your experiences and interactions, is providing clarity. If your growth feels halted, it is because something in your environment is preventing you from reaching the next level of your potential, and God is calling you to recognize the truth of the situation. Growth cannot coexist with toxicity. Your spirit, like a tree, needs sunlight, nourishment, and space to expand. When you are surrounded by people who drain your energy, undermine your confidence, or create emotional turmoil, it is as though someone has planted your roots in dark, rocky soil. No matter how strong your desire to grow, your potential cannot flourish in an environment that restricts your development. You begin to sense it in the quiet moments of reflection, in the disappointment you feel when you fail to move forward despite your efforts, and in the heavy sense of unfulfillment that lingers even when everything appears normal on the surface. God uses these feelings to direct your attention to the areas of life that require change. He wants you to understand that your growth is non-negotiable, and that clinging to relationships or situations that hinder your evolution is ultimately self-sabotage. When growth stalls, it is also a test of discernment and courage. God allows you to experience stagnation so that you will begin to evaluate your relationships honestly, to reflect on who is genuinely contributing to your progress, and to recognize who is holding you back. It is not always easy to see at first, because love, loyalty, and familiarity can cloud your judgment. But the inner voice, that quiet, insistent nudge in your soul, will keep reminding you that something is not right. Growth is a gift, and when it is being blocked, it becomes impossible to ignore the voice of wisdom within. This is why many people feel an intense sense of frustration, restlessness, and dissatisfaction in relationships that are toxic. They were never meant to be permanent because they impede your journey toward greatness. God's intention is for your life to be an upward trajectory. He desires for you to step into new levels of consciousness, success, and fulfillment. He wants you to experience the satisfaction that comes from pursuing your true purpose and seeing tangible results from your efforts. When someone in your life consistently drains your energy, criticizes your vision, or discourages your ambitions, it is not because they are inherently bad, but because their path is not aligned with yours. The divine message in these situations is clear. You cannot grow when you remain attached to what restrains you. Your growth is sacred, your potential is infinite, and the divine law of life is expansion. God will continue to provide opportunities, lessons, and nudges that illuminate the truth that in order to evolve, you must let go of what is limiting you, because your spirit cannot rise while remaining bound to stagnation. Your value is not defined by anyone else. It is intrinsic, divinely placed within you from the moment of your creation, and it exists independent of the approval, recognition, or validation of others. But when someone begins to diminish you, ignore your worth, or treat your contributions, feelings, and presence as insignificant, it is a signal from God that this relationship or situation is not meant to nurture you. Many people do not recognize the danger of having their value undermined because it does not always appear as obvious abuse or conflict. Often, it is subtle, wrapped in words, actions, or even silence that communicates a lack of respect, care, or acknowledgement. When someone consistently dismisses your opinions, fails to celebrate your victories, or undermines your efforts, the cumulative effect is spiritual and emotional depletion. You begin to feel smaller than you truly are, less capable than you know yourself to be, and disconnected from the innate greatness that exists within you. God allows this awareness to surface because He desires for you to reclaim your dignity, recognize your worth, and refuse to remain in an environment where your value is not honored. The diminishment of your value is often silent, occurring in ways that leave you questioning your own perception. You may start to wonder if you are overreacting, if your expectations are too high, or if you are imagining that your worth is being overlooked. This is exactly why God orchestrates circumstances and provides clarity over time. He wants you to see the patterns, to feel the repeated disrespect, and to trust the nudges of your spirit that scream truth even when your mind doubts it. When someone repeatedly prioritizes their own needs above your feelings, fails to acknowledge your achievements, or diminishes your voice, it is not a reflection of your inadequacy. It is a reflection of their inability to recognize or honor the divine light within you. God is pointing your attention to the fact that this relationship is eroding the confidence, joy, and self-respect that you are meant to carry. Ignoring the diminishment of your value is dangerous because it becomes a slow poison that corrodes self-esteem, decision-making, and overall well-being. The more you allow someone to belittle your worth, the more you begin to internalize their behavior as truth. You may start accepting less than you deserve, rationalizing mistreatment, or shrinking yourself to fit into the comfort of someone else's limited perspective. This is why God intervenes in subtle ways, creating moments of tension, discomfort, and reflection so that you will awaken to the reality that your spirit is being compromised. You are not meant to shrink to accommodate someone else's inability to honor your value. You were created for significance, for fulfillment, for the expression of your unique talents, and for the pursuit of a purpose that can only be achieved when you recognize and honor your own worth. God often places opportunities in front of you that highlight the contrast between who you are and how others perceive you. You may encounter situations where your efforts go unnoticed, your ideas are dismissed, or your contributions are minimized, and at the same time, you begin to notice that your gifts are being appreciated elsewhere, that your potential is recognized in other areas, and that your spirit resonates when it is honored. These moments are designed to awaken you to the truth. Being undervalued is not your destiny. Being ignored or diminished is not the life God intended for you. It is a warning, a divine interruption, and a call to action to stop investing energy, time, and emotion in someone who cannot or will not see your brilliance. When God allows you to feel the pain of being undervalued, it is not to punish you. It is a divine wake-up call to reassess the relationships and environments that are shaping your identity. It is a reminder that your self-worth cannot be negotiated, compromised, or measured by the acceptance of another. You are not defined by someone else's inability to recognize your greatness, and the sooner you realize this, the sooner you can release the toxic influence and reclaim your power. Your value is sacred, and God uses the discomfort of being diminished to teach you a profound lesson that respecting yourself, honoring your own worth, and walking away from people who fail to do the same is an act of spiritual courage, personal empowerment, and alignment with your divine purpose. Your purpose is the divine blueprint of your life, the reason your spirit exists in this world, the calling that was placed within you from the moment you were created. It is the guiding force that drives your passions, illuminates your path, and compels you to move toward fulfillment, contribution, and greatness. When you are aligned with your purpose, life has a rhythm, a momentum, a forward motion that feels effortless yet powerful. You wake up with clarity, enthusiasm, and a deep sense of meaning, and even the challenges you face serve as stepping stones toward your destiny. But when your purpose begins to feel delayed, hindered, or damaged, it is a sign that something in your environment is obstructing the flow that God intended for your life. Often, this obstruction comes in the form of people who, whether knowingly or unknowingly, drain your energy, cloud your vision, or discourage your ambition. These are the relationships that consume your time, sap your focus, and redirect your energy toward endless cycles of frustration rather than toward the pursuit of your divine calling. God allows you to experience this disruption as a warning, a signal, and a form of spiritual guidance, urging you to evaluate the influences around you and recognize who or what is preventing you from stepping fully into your destiny. When someone is toxic to your purpose, you may notice repeated patterns of delay and obstruction. Perhaps your goals feel harder to achieve than they should, opportunities slip away, or your creative energy seems blocked at every turn. You may find that your focus is constantly diverted by conflicts, drama, or emotional entanglements that leave little room for forward momentum. This is not coincidence. God is using the tension you feel as a message that your environment is not supporting your calling. You were never meant to remain stagnant or to have your potential stifled by someone else's negativity, criticism, or limitations. Every delayed opportunity, every repeated setback, and every sense of frustration is designed to direct your attention to the source of interference so that you can make the conscious decision to remove yourself from the toxicity that threatens your progress. Your purpose is sacred, and anything that compromises it is a direct signal from God that action is required. When a person consistently discourages your dreams, belittles your ambitions, or undermines your vision, it is not a reflection of your capacity to succeed. It is a reflection of their inability to support the magnitude of what God has placed in your heart. Sometimes the damage is subtle, disguised as concern, advice, or constructive criticism, but the effect on your energy and clarity is real. God allows you to experience the frustration, the doubts, and the delays so that you will awaken to the reality that your purpose cannot thrive in an environment that does not honor it. This is the moment when you must begin to recognize the difference between those who genuinely support your journey and those who pull you off course, intentionally or otherwise. The feeling of a delayed or damaged purpose is not just external, it is internal, spiritual, and deeply felt. You sense a heaviness in your soul, a frustration in your mind, and a restlessness in your spirit. Your intuition repeatedly whispers that something is wrong, that your path is being obstructed, and that remaining in the situation will only prolong the delay. God places these feelings in your heart to nudge you toward discernment. Your purpose cannot be delayed indefinitely without your awareness, because the divine design of your life is intentional and precise. Every delay, every blockage, and every moment of doubt is a sign that a realignment is necessary. It is an opportunity to evaluate your relationships, your surroundings, and your commitments to ensure that every element of your life is in harmony with the destiny that was designed specifically for you. Walking away from toxic influences that harm your purpose requires courage, but it is a necessary act of obedience to the divine plan. Your purpose cannot flourish when it is constantly being diverted, undermined, or diminished. God allows these moments of disruption so that you will recognize the importance of protecting your calling, prioritizing your goals, and maintaining the clarity and focus necessary to fulfill your destiny. The more you honor your purpose, the more the path becomes illuminated, the obstacles diminish, and the opportunities that were once delayed begin to appear. God's intention is not to punish you through these delays, but to wake you up to the realization that your spiritual, emotional, and mental alignment is essential to stepping fully into your calling. There is a voice within you that never lies, a voice that speaks with clarity and conviction, even when the world around you is chaotic, distracting, or misleading. This is the inner voice of your spirit, the whisper of your intuition, and the subtle, unrelenting guidance of God. It is the voice that knows what is right for you, that feels what is harmful, and that never ceases to remind you of your value, your purpose, and the path that aligns with your highest good. When you are in a situation with a toxic person, this inner voice becomes persistent, recurring, and impossible to ignore. At first, it may seem like mere hesitation, doubt, or anxiety, and you may convince yourself that it is overthinking, fear, or confusion. But deep down, there is an unmistakable knowing, a quiet yet insistent whisper that continues to emerge, repeating the same message over and over again. This is not right. You need to step away. You must protect your spirit. The repetition of this inner voice is not accidental. It is deliberate, and it is designed to draw your attention to the truth that your external environment is misaligned with your inner self. God uses this recurring voice to bypass your ego, your attachments, and your habitual patterns so that you can access clarity that cannot be achieved through logic or reasoning alone. While your mind may argue, rationalize, or make excuses for why you should stay, the inner voice refuses to be silenced. It keeps speaking in subtle ways through discomfort, unease, anxiety, a sense of heaviness, or even through recurring thoughts that you cannot escape. The more you pay attention to this voice, the clearer its message becomes, and the more unmistakable it is that God is trying to protect you from continued harm, emotional depletion, and spiritual stagnation. Many people struggle to trust this inner voice because it often conflicts with loyalty, love, or familiarity. You may feel obligated to stay because of history, shared experiences, or the comfort of routine. You may convince yourself that the toxic person will change, that you are strong enough to handle their negativity, or that walking away is selfish or harsh. Yet the inner voice continues its gentle insistence, repeating the same warning in different forms until you can no longer deny it. This is how God communicates guidance through your intuition. It is not always loud or dramatic, but it is persistent, patient, and ultimately unstoppable. The inner voice is a spiritual GPS, recalibrating your life toward alignment with your purpose, your peace, and your highest potential. Ignoring it only prolongs discomfort and confusion, whereas listening to it opens the door to clarity, empowerment, and spiritual freedom. The power of the inner voice lies in its consistency. It repeats the same truth in cycles until action is taken. You may hear it as subtle unrest whenever you are near the toxic person. You may feel it as mental resistance when considering your interactions or commitments with them. You may notice it in moments of reflection, meditation, or prayer when your heart and mind are quiet and receptive. This repetition is not coincidence, it is deliberate. God is not trying to confuse you, but to guide you, to nudge you, and to create a tension between where you are and where you are meant to be. The more you ignore it, the stronger the discomfort becomes. The more you resist it, the more your energy is depleted. The inner voice is relentless because it represents your alignment with divine wisdom, and it will continue to resurface until you choose to honor its guidance. Trusting the inner voice requires courage because it challenges attachment, familiarity, and fear of the unknown. It asks you to confront truths that are uncomfortable and to make decisions that may seem difficult or inconvenient in the short term. But it is also the most reliable source of clarity you have, far more reliable than external advice, opinions, or social pressures. Listening to this voice is a form of spiritual obedience, a way of protecting your peace, your purpose, and your potential. It is the signal that your soul is in danger of being compromised and that the path to alignment requires a decisive step, the step of removing yourself from the toxic influence that is contrary to God's design for your life. The repeated inner voice is also a measure of your spiritual sensitivity. It reveals how attuned you are to the divine guidance already within you. The more you trust it, the easier it becomes to discern between what nourishes your spirit and what depletes it, between what aligns with your calling and what hinders it. The voice may speak subtly at first, then more insistently, until its message is unmistakable. God's intention is never to overwhelm you with fear, but to awaken you to the truth that your life cannot thrive while you remain in a situation that undermines your spirit, diminishes your value, and obstructs your path to fulfillment. Every human being is created with a unique design, a divine blueprint that outlines who they are, what they are capable of, and the life they are meant to live. God has placed within you specific gifts, talents, and purposes that are unmatched and irreplaceable. And when you live in alignment with this design, life flows with a sense of fulfillment, joy, and unstoppable momentum. But there are relationships in life that pull you away from this divine blueprint, that distract you from your calling, and that cloud your awareness of who you were created to be. These relationships, often disguised as love, friendship, or loyalty, can quietly, subtly, and consistently divert your energy, attention, and focus away from your true self. The danger lies not in the person's intentions necessarily, but in the effect their presence has on your spiritual, emotional, and mental alignment. God allows you to feel this misalignment as a warning, a spiritual red flag, and a signal that action is required to preserve your identity, purpose, and destiny. When you are being pulled away from who God created you to be, you may notice a sense of heaviness, confusion, or unease that cannot be attributed to ordinary life stressors. You may feel that your creativity is stifled, your enthusiasm diminished, or your confidence eroded. You may begin to question your abilities, your worth, and even your sense of purpose. This is the subtle but persistent influence of a relationship that is misaligned with your divine design. God allows you to experience this discomfort because it is a powerful indicator that something is interfering with your spiritual growth and alignment. Your soul recognizes the mismatch even if your mind struggles to rationalize it, and over time, repeated exposure to this influence erodes the clarity, confidence, and joy that are essential for living fully in the person you were created to be. Toxic relationships often demand your energy, attention, and emotional labor while giving little or nothing in return. They pull your focus away from your goals, your calling, and your dreams, replacing forward motion with cycles of conflict, drama, or manipulation. God designed you to operate in alignment with your purpose, to use your time, energy, and gifts to expand, create, and serve in meaningful ways. And when someone's presence prevents this, it is a spiritual signal. You begin to sense the drain on your energy, the compromises to your integrity, and the subtle shifts in your priorities that are inconsistent with your authentic self. These shifts are not minor, they accumulate, creating patterns that erode your identity and cloud your awareness of the unique gifts that God has placed within you. Living out of alignment with who God created you to be leads to frustration, dissatisfaction, and a sense of incompleteness. You may succeed externally, achieve milestones, or appear to thrive in superficial ways, yet inwardly you feel hollow, disconnected, and unfulfilled. This internal unrest is the divine message trying to penetrate the noise of life and draw your attention back to your true path. God is reminding you that your identity, your gifts, and your potential are sacred and cannot be fully expressed while you remain bound to influences that pull you away from them. He desires for you to reclaim your power, honor your spiritual design, and surround yourself with people, environments, and opportunities that amplify rather than diminish your authentic self. Recognizing that a relationship is pulling you away from who you were created to be requires courage and discernment. It requires honesty about the ways in which you have compromised your peace, purpose, and priorities in order to maintain connection, approval, or comfort. It demands that you examine the patterns of influence, the repeated behaviors, and the consistent effects that this person has on your energy, focus, and clarity. God allows you to feel the tension and discomfort so that you will awaken to the reality that your divine design cannot be fully realized while you remain entangled with what is misaligned. This awareness is not meant to shame you, but to empower you, to inspire you to protect your gifts, and to motivate you to take the necessary steps to preserve your alignment with your higher purpose. Walking away from relationships that pull you away from your true self is not rejection, abandonment, or selfishness. It is an act of obedience to divine guidance, a conscious choice to honor your spiritual design, and a commitment to living in alignment with the fullness of your potential. God will continue to provide guidance, clarity, and opportunities for growth when you release what no longer serves you. And as you do, you will begin to notice the restoration of energy, clarity, and confidence that comes from living authentically. The path toward reclaiming your true self may require difficult decisions, but the reward is immeasurable, a life of alignment, purpose, and the freedom to fully express the person God intended you to be.